fix it, flip it, or run. And I'm sitting here with...
I'm Wendy Stanley.
And we're going to be talking today about kind of building your team and the first steps you need to do to get ready. I am a huge proponent of kind of creating a plan before you even think about executing. I just created this whole spreadsheet basically for my team on the loan process and where things are. So before you get started and all the shopping for a house, remodeling a house, finding your lenders, and all the other topics that we're going to talk about, the first step is really dive in and setting up your business and setting up your plan. So the first real thing is, do you do an LLC? Do you do it in your name? What are some tips that you have for people when they're kind of creating that business structure?
So my tip to you is figure out how you want to do your taxes at the end of the year, at the end of the day. So if you have more liability if you do it in your own personal name versus if you do it in an LLC or a partnership. If it's just you individually and you're going to have just a team and 1099 contractors, I would just do an LLC. But if you're going to do it with multiple people or even one other person, I would suggest a partnership. There's more protection for both parties if you have a partnership versus an LLC.
Yeah, so, obviously talk to a lawyer and get that kind of tightened up. But any kind of partnerships you have or any kind of contracts you need written, you're going to want to find a solid, real estate attorney that can write those up for you to kind of make those airtight. So, 10 years from now, you're not dealing with issues that could have been solved kind of in this pre-planning stage.
And also along those lines too, when we talk about the financing end of it, when you go to do the financing, they're going to ask you for a organization, how the monies go and all those kinds of things for tax purposes.
So get your lawyer and get your business kind of set up, your structure, and then really start setting some goals. Are you guys going to be doing one house a year or 5 houses a year? I mean, what are the plans for not just today, but what are the 5-year goals? What are the 10-year goals? Start putting those ideas down on paper so that you guys know exactly, how big this can get. Because that might change how you do your operating agreement, right?
Exactly, because today you're just thinking 2 or 3 houses or 2 or 3 doors per year, but by next year this time you're like, this is really good and we want to increase. So do it the big picture versus today's picture.
Yeah, and I always tell my guys to set 2 goals. You have your obtainable, realistic goal, and then
your long-term.
Your we call it a VFG. You can fill in the F. But basically, what are those big goals that maybe are harder to achieve, but they're still obtainable, but they're a little bit bigger than just your normal goals. They're the BFG goals.
Go big or go home.
Go big or go home, exactly. So setting up those goals, figuring out how much you guys want to make, setting up your financial goals, setting up what that looks like with your business partner, that's all part of that first step. And then really reaching out and finding your team. Talk to a couple different loan officers, see what they offer. Talk to a couple different real estate agents, see what they offer.
Exactly.
Who are the other people that they really need to be adding to their team, kind of in this beginning stage?
I advise getting an inspector that you can trust, and your real estate agent or your loan officer can always recommend those 2, but an inspector is ultimately really important because when you structure your offer, they're able to tell you they're going to give you a good idea of anything could possibly go wrong with the home.
Yes, that home inspector, that general contractor, if it's not something that, if you're not a general contractor, your lender, your realtor, get those 5, 6, insurance, we'll talk about that next, but get those, really core people all dialed in so that you guys are structured, you're ready to go, you have a plan, and then start setting some timelines to that plan of when you're going to implement, these ideas. The next is insurance. You want to set up your business with insurance. You want some coverage there for any liability, whether it's on the job or whatnot. So don't miss that step. That's a step that a lot of people will miss in the beginning.
Yep, I was one of them.
Okay.
I missed that step. Yep, and then I found out as a general contractor, you have to have all these insurance things, you know.
Yeah, so find that out from the beginning. Make sure that you get all that structure in place before you even think about looking at a house. Because if you do not have the structure in place, you're just setting yourself up for disaster.
There's labor and industries that can get involved, and so you need to know all those rules along with your insurance, so that when you're on site, you have everything in place. So if you ever are inspected, you're not going to get shut down.
Yeah, so definitely talk to your attorney when you're drafting all the other stuff up. They should know a few of the laws here in Washington or Oregon or wherever you're at. So after you set your goals, and you get your team in place, that's going to really be where the next step comes in, and that's going to be talking to a lender and really dialing in how you're going to pay for all this. So we'll talk about that next week. I hope you guys enjoy the goal setting section of our first ever Fix, Flip, and a Run. For now, thanks for tuning in, and
We'll see you next week.
thanks, guys.